What a night.
Yeah. This is great.
This is it. This is the magic.
Go ahead, sorry. All right. Well, welcome everyone. It is really nice to meet you all. Some of you I haven't met yet, but hopefully I will get to know you a little bit tonight. My name is Ellen Crocker. I'm in the Department of Forestry and Natural Resources at the University of Kentucky. And tonight we'll be talking about invasive species. So my goal for tonight is that we will get some terminology, because I think we've all heard about invasive species, but a little bit into the biology of them. What are they? How do we define invasive, non-native, native, those kinds of things? Why are they such a problem? What is it that they're doing? How did they get here? Why are they so successful? Then we're going to talk a little bit about some different invasive species to use them as case studies of the things that those organisms are doing in our environment. So a lot of times when we think about invasive species, we think about invasive plants, because those are everywhere and a major problem. We will see some tonight, but also invasive insects, diseases, animals, lots of different invasive organisms. And you know, this is a really brief class, right? We have probably an hour and a half left to learn everything there is about invasive species. No, we're not going to do that. So by the end of the class, just an introduction to those sorts of things, where you can go to get more information. What are the next steps with that? Because what everyone really wants to know is, what can you do about them, right? Not just that they exist and they're bad and what those problems are, but when do you try to manage them? How do you do that? When is it effective for you to try to eradicate something versus trying to control it? And that totally depends on what your goals are. So we're not going to go into that too much, but giving you some resources for where to get more information on that if that's something you're interested in. And I imagine many of you are here because you volunteer with different organizations or maybe manage your own property, and invasive plant species are something you've been dealing with. So how many of you have experience managing invasive plant species? I know a few of you already do. So what do you manage? Everything. What are the biggest species that you tackle?
Well, we've got a program at Preston Springs to deal with the bush honeysuckle.
Bush honeysuckle?
Mustard and the creeper.
Garlic mustard, winter creeper?
Yeah, mostly the bush honeysuckle.
Bush honeysuckle?
Porcelain berry.
Porcelain berry. We'll see some of that tonight. Hannah?
Well, it's been garlic mustard, and a little honeysuckle is just coming up.
Mm-hmm.
But I'm seeing a
Oh, yep.
privet.
Privet, yeah.
Autumn olive.
Autumn olive.
What's the red thing in the fall that everybody loves?
Burning bush.
Yes, burning.
Yeah, euonymus, winged euonymus.
I'm finding little sprouts of those now. Oh, and the worst, Japanese
Japanese stilt grass. Yep.
And I've been throwing up my hands on that.
Yeah. Some of them are really hard, so I don't know if I got to everybody, but those of you who have already been doing this, any new ones to add? No, okay.
We've got some knotweed.
Knotweed, Japanese knotweed, another one that's up and coming.
I'm killing the mosquitoes on my front porch.
Mosquitoes, some invasive mosquitoes. Yeah. So those of you who've already been doing this know that you have limited resources, your time, financial resources, and many of these invasive species are very established here. There is going to be no eradicating them. So thinking about, what do you want? What are your goals? What are the impediments to those goals, and how can you manage for them? What is that going to look like? Because it might not be possible to do everything you want to do and take your area back to a day before you had invasive plants. That might not be a realistic goal, but thinking about what do you want to accomplish and what's stopping that from happening. So yeah, the organizations that you're working with, or you in your own areas that you're working with, that's an important consideration. Because, for example, emerald ash borer. How many of you know about emerald ash borer? Everybody, right? Emerald ash borer, an invasive insect that has wiped out our ash trees. It is wiped out many of them. It will wipe out all of them. Well, all of the white and the green for sure. Will just be absent shortly.
Susceptible because people are treating some.
That is true. So if people will treat them with an insecticide, then they will be preserved. And who knows, maybe we'll come up with some really good solutions for them in the future. There's some exciting research happening with emerald ash borer. But it would not be the first time that an invasive species has come in and fundamentally changed our forest, completely changed the nature of it. And so there's no going back to before emerald ash borer. So it is about dealing with the new reality of what we have post emerald ash borer, rather than thinking about, can we eradicate emerald ash borer? That's not going to be a realistic goal, but how can we manage for that? What do we care about? And how can we meet that current problem that we have? So that's a little bit about what we'll talk about tonight. Any questions? Anything else? So what we're going to do first is we're going to walk around. And I actually haven't been down this trail, but we're going to look for some invasive plants. They've been doing a lot of management for,
I just want to make a statement about invasives, exotic invasives. That it's really a benefit in a way, because it gives you the opportunity to study plants in general without destroying native plants. And once you learn, and this really served me well, once you've learned the exotics, everything else is native. Now, really, that works very well. So as you're surveying your property, that's exotic, that's exotic, and then what are the other ones? It keeps you from destroying what native populations that you have by studying those. And that has really worked well for me. Just for me.
Wonderful. Sounds good.
That's right. That's right. You have to know what you're weeding.
Yeah, that is true. That's a good point. Any other comments before we get started walking?
Well, I found things that I wouldn't have seen otherwise. Pulling garlic mustard, I uncovered a little salamander that I would never have seen if I wasn't down.
Get you down on your hands and knees, does it?
So, and then, in my woods, I usually stick to the trails, and pulling invasives, I get off the trails, so then I discover new plants. Oh, I didn't know I had this growing here. I try to find every positive way I can.
And there is a positive in that, in many cases, these invasives are apart, they are thriving. So they are doing quite well, and especially in areas where maybe there are some major challenges, we don't like them because we don't like what they do, right? So they are harming the systems that we want to preserve, or they're a challenge for us, but they're very happy in their new homes. So as we'll see some very happy plants in just a moment. So why don't we get walking, and we'll talk along the way and stop. Sound good? Great.
Is that kid over there just playing, or is he like...
Wonderful. Yeah, let's go. We'll go wherever you take us that has lots of invasive